Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to see you, and we're so grateful for everyone joining during the day. It's hard to find a time that works for everyone, but it's great to see such wonderful attendance for today. If you weren't here when I mentioned it, we will be recording today's session for anyone who's not able to join. So I am Amy Spellman. If I haven't met you or talked with you yet, I lead our talent development programs at the A&A Educational Foundation. I'm joined by two amazing colleagues, Sarah Ackerman. A lot of you know her well from her involvement in the MAID internship program. And our excellent guest speaker, Marni Gordon, who is a senior vice president here at the A&A Educational Foundation, leading our partnerships program. So Marni actually taught at last year's, as part of last year's MAID Online web series, and according to student feedback, it was one of the most favorite sessions. So we knew that we had to have her back again this year. And as most of you know, Marni is going to be talking to us about, well, her own career journey, but also about building and maintaining your professional network, which is so important in all of our careers. And then Marni is also going to talk briefly about coaching, which is a new offering that we will be running this summer as part of MAID Online. So with all of that, I am going to hand it over to Marni.
Great. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm so excited to be with everybody today. Hi, Brescia. How are you? Hi, Valerie. If you're comfortable, would love to see some more faces. If not, that's fine too. But I love seeing people on screen. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Hopefully everyone could see it. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, great. So thank you all for joining today. Like Amy said, I'm just going to really talk a little bit about my own career journey. I think it's helpful to kind of hear different people's stories because you can always learn from it. And then after that, talk about ways that you could potentially build your network as you're growing your own career. So let me see if this works. All right. So the very early years, believe it or not, I was an anomaly. I knew when I was like as early as third grade that I wanted to go into marketing. I didn't 100% know, well, marketing and advertising, I didn't 100% know what that meant. And I actually had a paper cup collection with different logos on them. You can see Pepsi, Burger King, what have you. And I was kind of, very excited to kind of go from, fast food restaurant or store to store to kind of build up that collection. And I just love logos and, the whole, like, I guess, advertising feel, if you will. Then moving on to seventh grade, I was part of this program in school where we were exposed to kind of different careers, if you will. And one of the units was advertising. And I worked on a campaign, with a group of kids. And it was a campaign, a print campaign, to date myself, to launch a new album at the time, 99 Red Balloons from Nina. So how many people have ever heard of that? Nobody. And that's totally expected. So after that, I had, great experience. I kind of loved logos and business in general. And then, believe it or not, I asked my parents as a gift to get me a subscription to Advertising Age, which is not, a typical thing that a preteen would get. But I loved just kind of like reading about the marketing industry, and, it was pretty expensive thing at the time. I got excited for it to come in the mail and, read about different companies and what they were doing in the space. So once I, in high school, I, took some marketing courses. I even kind of started my own little business. It was like cookies in a cup. I think it lasted for a couple of months. And then ultimately, I knew I wanted marketing. And went to Binghamton University, which back then was SUNY Binghamton, and graduated with a bachelor's in management and a concentration in marketing. You couldn't major in marketing there. Through my time there, I spent a lot of time in our career development center volunteering. So I worked in the recruiting division for 2 years, got to know everybody there. It was a great way for me to figure out, start to figure out the marketing industry. I learned about internships through career guides there. There was a career guide for advertising that I kind of lived and died by, not only when I was in school, but post school as well. And I found it there. I highly recommend to you all, if there's, one thing that you take away from this is, make sure you get connected and involved in your career center on campus. You will never get these services for free ever again when you graduate. And, they're actually pretty pricey. So, get to know the staff, get to know the resources that they have, leverage them to look at your resumes, your cover letters, information on internships, you name it. It was really helpful for me. And, that experience was really critical for me to kind of like navigate, my career in marketing, if you will. I also was involved in the American Marketing Association on campus. They had chapters, which was pretty cool. Don't really remember much else besides that. And then while I was in school, I had 2 summer internships. One was at Variety, which is an entertainment trade publication. And I got lucky. I knew someone who knew someone in the promotions department. So it was, I guess, my first experience of networking. And so I spent the summer in their promotions department and loved it. And then ultimately leveraged that experience to get an internship through the DMA, the Direct Marketing Association. Their educational foundation was the DMEF, the Direct Marketing Educational Foundation, which unfortunately is no longer in existence, but it was an amazing experience. It was similar to MAID, where you apply to the DMEF, they vetted all the talent, and then ultimately, the final candidates were set up with interviews at different companies. And I remember interviewing with Time, Columbia Records, and ended up at Doubleday Book and Music Clubs, which is also on Long Island. I'm from Long Island, and spent the summer there in 2 different departments. It was a great place to work. And then we also had kind of lunch and learns like this in the city. So I would come back like a couple of times a month into Manhattan and learn from different industry experts in direct marketing. So it was a great experience. So as I was trying to figure out, all right, what am I going to do when I graduate? I ended up sending a lot of cold resumes and cover letters to, at the time, different marketing and publishing companies. I was interested in magazines, interested in marketing. I didn't feel like the advertising agencies were right for me at the time. I didn't feel confident enough, to try for that at that point. So I ended up working as an advertising coordinator at Scholastic in their magazine group. Worked on really magazines for teachers and coaches. And my job was to receive what's called an insertion orders, which is really contracts from agencies and brands to place space in their magazines. So I would make sure that everything on the insertion orders or the contracts were correct. I was responsible for proofreading the ads in the book and making sure that they were placed in the right spot. So for example, Gatorade was a huge advertiser at Scholastic Coach, and they always had the table of contents. I still remember that. And, I'd make sure that, okay, they got the position that they contracted for. I even went to Quad Graphics in Wisconsin and did some press checks and saw how magazines were made. And it was, it was really interesting. But if I were to stay at Scholastic in this position, the path to growth was really more of magazine production. So how big should the paper stock be, and and so forth. And that's not what I was ultimately interested in. What I did learn from the experience is I got to know a lot of the advertising sales reps. So those are people who sold ads for the magazines, and they worked with agencies and brands. And they were the ones that actually taught me about media planning. I vaguely remembered it in a chapter in a textbook in college, and like a kind of like an intro to marketing course. But it didn't stick with me until I got to Scholastic and learned from the sales reps all about it. And I was kind of like, well, why should I be the one receiving the space and kind of taking more of a passive role? Why can't I be the one who's making the decisions on where the ads go? And really, getting more of a, marketing advertising experience. So I ended up kind of going back to the drawing board. I took a pay cut. I was making I ended up making like 18,500 to go to Gray Advertising, which was my first media planning job, which is now MediaCom. And spent about 2 years there working on Procter & Gamble, which is still the largest advertiser in the country. It was an amazing training ground, great experience. Spent my first year working on CoverGirl Cosmetics and the quote unquote fine fragrances, like Hugo, the launch of Hugo, Red, Giorgio, Wings. And then my second year, I worked on Pantene on hair care, which was a very hot brand at the time. It was like, it was very exciting to work on. And then, after that, I mean, Gray at the time was a great place to learn. I met a lot of people that I still keep in touch with to this day.
Systems connectivity, retail store processes as our frontline.
Everyone, if you could all please keep yourselves on mute, that would be great. Thank you so much. And we'll ask you to unmute for the Q&A portion later on.
Cool, thanks. So while Gray was a great place to start, I learned a lot there, got some great training. That's one big advantage, like as you navigate your careers, of working for a big agency. They have really strong just kind of internal training programs typically. So you not only learn on the job, but you learn, from a structured training program. I know Group M just launched like a big one now. But the hours were definitely crazy. And it wasn't, not that working in an advertising agency, the hours are always long, but it was like significantly, like I was there until midnight and then would come back a couple hours later to start the next day. And so anyway, one of my friends moved to J. Walter Thompson from Gray and was telling me how amazing it was. So she actually sent in my resume, and I ended up getting a job working there. And at the time, J. Walter Thompson and advertising agencies in general were full service. So meaning that everything was under one agency: creative, account management, media planning, production, you name it. So when I started, I was, in the media department. The account managers were really on the front lines with the clients. We would put together media plans and so forth for them to go to present to the client. And when I first started, I worked on Warner Lambert, which is now owned by Pfizer, on Schick razors, which I loved, and Rolaids. And then ultimately worked on Unilever, on the Lever 2000 brand, which I think is no longer in existence. I'm really not that old, but it was very exciting to work on at the time. It kind of just launched. And then ultimately, back in the early 2000s, the trend was that media departments were spinning off to form their own agencies under the same holding company. So what happened was my media department at J. Walter Thompson and Ogilvy's media department combined together to form Mindshare, which is now still one of the largest media planning, buying, you name it, agencies out there. We moved to a new space. And then we also, at the time, I was working on just a piece of Unilever, just Lever 2000 and a couple other brands. We also won all of Unilever's business because it was at many agencies before that. So it was exciting to be able to work on some, new brands, kind of start this, business model from the ground up. There I worked on Vaseline, which was a lot of fun. Country Crock, which is funny, I still keep in touch with. One of my clients, it's funny, his son and my daughter are the same age and both going to school for architecture, believe it or not. So, and I'll explain how that all like links in my second half of the presentation. But anyway, worked on Bermuda tourism and so forth. And then ultimately, I also, one of my bosses was kind of charged with starting, kind of revamping the internal training program for assistant planners. And she gave me the opportunity to work with her to kind of build a curriculum from the ground up and get people to share what they, what they do. So everyone, all of the assistants could kind of learn how media works in general. So we kind of relaunched our internal M Academy training program, which was a lot of fun. I ended up really enjoying it a lot more than my day job of doing media planning. And, at a certain point, my daughter was born. Even before that, I knew that I liked marketing and advertising, but I just knew that agency life wasn't for me. I wanted to be able to kind of control my own schedule to a degree. There were times, the pros of working in an agency is that you get to work on a lot of different pieces of business and learn, a lot, and then you can kind of take it and either stay agency side or run with it really anywhere. Some of the cons for me is like a lot of times you would work on plans that would just never see the light of day, never even make it to the client, and spend hours and hours and many late nights kind of doing that. So I kind of knew, well, when my daughter was, I figured, well, my daughter's in kindergarten, I'll do something that I really, love to do. I'll kind of figure that out for myself. But in the meantime, I was working one day from home, which was important to me, to be with her, and I'll kind of ride it out. So then 2009 came and the recession decided that for me. And myself and all of my close friends, we were all laid off from Mindshare. We were all group director levels at the time. And it was like a really scary time, never been, laid off before. I, have a husband and a daughter, and, I'm the breadwinner in the house. I need to have a salary to pay my mortgage. So I ended up, reaching out to my network, seeing where, at first just kind of looking for other agency jobs, because that's what I knew, even though I really didn't want to do that anymore. And then honestly, luckily on mediabistro.com, I found a job at the ANA as a director on committees and conferences, and then luckily I got it, and I've been at the ANA in general for 13 years. It was a great role, but really almost like 12 out of the 13 years, I worked really responsible for programming the agendas. So getting speakers finding the right speakers, and then getting them to speak at our events, for our committee meetings, our conferences. So we have a lot of national conferences at the ANA. Like I started the Digital and Social Conference back like 10 years ago. And then I still even work on our largest conference, our Masters of Marketing Conference, which is, thousands of marketers come every year, pre-COVID, and now hopefully again this year too, we're doing it hybrid, to hear CMOs on stage sharing their stories on growth. So that's a fun event. I hope that you'll all get to go one day, whether it's virtual or ideally in person. And I also got the chance to work on a lot of industry leadership initiatives, like, for example, media transparency was one of the big ones I worked on, where we found that agencies were receiving kickbacks from media companies and not necessarily for doing business with them and not passing those dollars on to their clients. So we kind of worked together with an independent investigator, and they found that this problem was systemic and pervasive, and it was all over Ad Age, which I read in 7th grade. And then we worked with another company, Ubiquity, it's like, okay, we know this problem exists, but what are we going to do about it? So we worked with them to put together contract templates that brands can use with their agencies to make sure that they're protected and that all of their media dollars are working where they should be and not necessarily in their agency's pockets. So, oops, sorry, gotta try to go back. Sorry about that. I'm like going in the wrong direction. Hold on. Wait.
All good, all good.
I got it.
And everyone, just a reminder. Oh, no, I was going to say, just a reminder, you can put questions in the chat and I could raise them for you, or you can unmute when we get to the Q&A too. Okay.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Amy. Here we are again. So I was always really, especially after working at the Career Development Center in, at Binghamton, and kind of going through the process of like figuring out like, what am I going to do with my life? And it wasn't so easy, when you're going into marketing, when you're in accounting or finance or consulting, those companies are the ones that come to campus. And, a lot of my friends were getting jobs by January of their senior year and they're all set. But with marketing, you really had to be scrappy and literally figure it out on your own. So, I spent, and I'll get to this in a second, I spend a lot of time like mentoring students and trying to kind of pay it forward, because I know how hard it was to kind of go through that. So about 2015, the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, and I'll take a step back, that's like the largest marketing trade organization. So that's where I program conferences and committees and webinars. We took over the AEF, which was the Advertising Education Foundation at the time, now renamed to the ANA Education Foundation. And ever since then, I was kind of like circling around because I was dying to work here, because I'm really passionate about our mission of bridging the gap between marketing academia, so marketing professors and students, and the marketing industry to really inspire and educate and hope, get the next generation of talent into our industry. So about over a year ago, an opportunity opens up and I grabbed it, and luckily they accepted me, and love it ever since, because I get my role is really to really help, almost like help the machine run and help the programs run, if you will, that Amy and Sarah put together from a revenue perspective. So, without money, we can't do any of this. So there are 3 ways that we generate revenue right now for the ANA Educational Foundation. One is through our Give the Gift program, where companies actually donate ANA memberships to universities. So faculty and staff can cascade all of the many ANA membership benefits to their students. And then, give them opportunities, and then also partner with those companies kind of over and above the gift of membership, like with campus speaking opportunities and integrating case studies into the curricula and mentoring students and so forth. We also have an annual AEF Honors Night, which this year will be Monday, October 3rd. Sometimes some select students are invited to come. So if you're in the New York area, definitely let Amy and Sarah know as it comes closer. Sometimes companies will donate tables for students to attend. And then we're also launching a Masters on Campus talent partnership program, which has all of that, plus a lot of different bells and whistles. We're launching a talent conference and a whole host of other things. So a lot of exciting stuff. What I would say for you is definitely make sure, so first of all, it's great that you're connected with ANA Educational Foundation through the MADE program. Definitely take advantage of everything made online, from the webinars to the CAMS program, the Certificate of ANA Marketing Student program. Like literally our summer intern last summer got a step up in her salary from going through the program at her first time job. So this could literally be money in your pockets. And just kind of take advantage of, the mentor program, everything that Amy and Sarah have to offer. And then, continue to follow us on AEF.org is our handle on Instagram. And also, definitely follow the ANA Educational Foundation on LinkedIn if you're not already, for sure. And then in addition to that, just like as a side note, in my spare time, I'm actually, and Amy is too, an NYU and ICF certified career and executive coach. That's actually how Amy and I met, through the NYU program, which is kind of cool, and our ICF mentor coaching course. So, I'm very passionate about helping people find, a job that they love and help them with leadership issues as well. So that's been a lot of fun. I also launched a complimentary bi-monthly newsletter called Career Chat with Marni, to really kind of share my tips about, about networking, like we're talking about today, ways to take your career to the next level, talking about some kind of hot, industry topics, and kind of how you can, with some key action items on, how you can apply it to your own career. So if you want to subscribe, that's my my website, careerchatwithmarni.com. And then I also do a lot of mentoring. So I mentor from my alma mater, Binghamton University, through NYU. One of my favorites, in addition to MAID, of course, is Baruch's Executive on Campus year-long program. I've actually met a lot of great mentees that I still keep in touch with. One of them, I was actually able to help her find her first marketing job, which was pretty cool. And then I also do some speaking on campus like this, whether it's sharing about networking or different careers in marketing, things like that. And then I'm also involved in my Marketing Alumni Association at Binghamton called the Binghamton Marketing Collective. So if there's anyone on the call at Binghamton, from Binghamton, I highly suggest that you join. And if you're not sure how to do that, let me know and I'll put you in touch with the right folks. And then in addition to that, I guess on a personal note, I'm married and I have a daughter who is starting college in the fall. So if anyone goes to University of Virginia, also let me know, because could definitely use some tips and tricks with that and Charlottesville. She's going into architecture though, no marketing for her. So anyway, enough about me. How do you build your network? So, my approach is, you really need to look at building your network as if you're building your own savings account, right? You always want to make sure that you have enough money in your savings account that, let's say if you need to spend it, or you have an emergency, or you want to buy something for yourself, that you have it in the bank ready to go. And it's the same thing for your network. You want to make sure now is the time to start building your network, to make sure that you have enough connections that when, and authentic connections, and I'll talk about what that means in a second, when you're looking for a job, or let's say, God forbid, you're laid off and you need something, that you have some connections that you could go to that will go, over and above to help you out when you need it. So if you haven't already, LinkedIn is like the main tool to build your network. If you haven't already, I'm sure most of you or all of you have a profile, but just in case, start one on LinkedIn. What I recommend is, it's one thing to have a profile, but you want to have a strong profile. One way to find tips around that is to search LinkedIn help for how to create a good profile. And they have, amazing kind of tips and tricks, and also some webinars through their LinkedIn Learning platform. There's also, I recommend signing up for General Assembly. They have a lot of paid courses, but they do give a number of free webinars, which I've sat on myself, on how to build your profile, how to build yourself as, your own personal brand. Trying to think of what else, how to build I think networking as well. So that's something you could kind of just Google General Assembly and see what, free webinars they may have available. And even if you can't make it, kind of similar to today, they'll send you the recording if you can't make it live. Some things to, kind of going a little off script, some things to think about with, your own profile is your headline. That could work wonders for you. And it's really thinking about, well, what keywords do you want to put in your LinkedIn headline? I, for many years, had my title in there, so it would be now SVP Partnerships at the A&A Educational Foundation. Then I learned, what, recruiters or people in general looking to network are looking for keywords, and it's all about putting the right keywords in your profile. So once I kind of decided to change my headline to, specific keywords, then all of a sudden people were finding me. So in that, in your about section, those are some things that you may want to, think about, depending on what types of jobs you might want to apply for. Kind of look at those descriptions, see what those keywords are, and make sure that they're, authentically included in your LinkedIn profile. And then once your profile is all set, you want to make sure to connect with anyone and everyone. So connect with your family, your friends, any former and current colleagues. You never know who you'll be sitting next to in your class that could be an amazing connection for you. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, one of my best friends in Binghamton ended up becoming the CEO of the DNC. Like, who would have thought that? We used to go to parties every weekend, and then all of a sudden, she's, in this like amazing position. So you just kind of never know. So that's why it's always worth, it's all about relationships, and it's always worth connecting with, with everybody. Some additional ways to really build your network is definitely leverage your alumni directory in any what I call alumni affinity group. So, an example of that is the Binghamton Marketing Collective that, I'm a member of. It's our marketing alumni association. When you reach out to someone from your university who is an alumni, they're like 99.9% always willing to connect with you, because you already have that bond that, you went to the same school, and you kind of, and I can speak from my own personal experience. I see someone from Binghamton, it's like, oh, I'm definitely gonna, make time to talk to them no matter what, because they went to my school, and I know what they're going through and so forth. So, I mean, I've done this for myself, right? When I was going, when I was in marketing, I leveraged the alumni directory. When I wanted to find out more information about becoming a coach and what that was like in coach training programs, I actually, looked up, career and executive coaches, and made some great contacts that I still keep in touch with, as well. And, kind of found out about the NYU program that way. So you can always use, your directory is like a really amazing tool for you in your career. Definitely make sure to leverage that. And then also attending, thank God, I'm glad we're back to some in-person conferences, or if not virtual conferences, to really learn and network with attendees. Come to all of these made online webinars, and network with your fellow interns. Like, you have a network right here of all of the interns as part of this program. I mean, how amazing is that? You're all going to be super successful in marketing. So it's like, start connecting on LinkedIn with everyone here. And then, even there are a lot of industry events, like I know, the A&A, for example, has a lot of events and webinars to tap into, and some other kind of trade associations do as well. So if there's something that you're interested in within marketing, I highly recommend taking advantage of that. And then I also kind of listed some what I call online networking groups around marketing that I recommend checking into. The first one I highly recommend, like, join it yesterday. It's called Serial Marketers, and these are all free, by the way. Serial Marketers, someone else on the Binghamton Marketing Alumni Board David Berkowitz, he's a huge industry leader in marketing, started this community from nothing. Now there's like 3,000 marketers. It's even just getting it for the weekly newsletter that he sends alone, which is which filled with tons of jobs and events and his own insight and connections. And then he also runs this community on Slack, and it has an app and it's very easy to use. I even spoke, I did a webinar through there. It's just a great group. And especially if you're looking at, digital tech content, anything in marketing, it's a great group to build your network with. And then there are two others. There's one is Upstream, which I think they're now on desktop too. But it started out as an app where you can join kind of different groups, if you will, on Upstream of things you might be interested in within marketing. And they'll have events, which include content and networking. They're usually like 30-minute events, and half of it is like a Q&A, and the other half is like you'll get a chance to do one-to-one networking. And then there's also Lunch Club, where you can, kind of put your profile in the system, and based on what you enter, you can meet somebody virtually, or maybe even in person now, I'm not sure, for lunch, quote unquote, or for a meeting. So it's a great way to kind of network with different people that you normally wouldn't be able to get connected to. So what I really recommend is, like, as you're building your network, this is a great time to start scheduling informational interviews. You're learning about marketing to build your network. You're learning about marketing. It's a great way to learn about different parts of marketing, because, you may be still figuring out, well, okay, marketing, there's a lot in there. There's a million different career paths I could take. Maybe I'm kind of interested in this part, digital or content or whatever, brand building. So, what I recommend is kind of start to put together a list of, some top brands and companies, and then people at those companies that you're interested in potentially, having like a 30-minute informational interview with. And I kind of put as an example, a, kind of like a quick note that you could send them on LinkedIn, or if you happen to have their email address, that's great too. And then what I found, especially in COVID, and we're still not 100% out of it, is that, 90% if you reach out to somebody to talk, people are dying to socialize, especially because everyone's been so cooped up. So, and especially, they'd love to, share their journey about what they're doing. People love to talk about themselves. So, you could really, learn a lot from that. And, get to know different people, add them to your network. Once you have these conversations, and you may want to ask them during these conversations, hey, I'd love to hear more about your career journey and what it's like to be in content marketing, or what is your day-to-day like? What kind of tips or advice would you recommend to me on, what I should do in terms of starting my career? And then at the end of every conversation, I always recommend, is there anyone in your network that you think, it would be great for me to connect with? And, and sometimes people will think of someone, sometimes not, but I've definitely gotten a lot of good kind of second connections that way as well. Once you have that call, and you want to make sure to send them, when you schedule it, send them the Zoom link or your phone number, or however you're communicating, set within a calendar invite. So it's, held on their calendar. And then once you have that call, you want to make sure to send a thank you note within 24 hours of each interview that you have, to show that, that you're responsive. And then ideally find ways to provide value to your network, to kind of authentically stay in touch. So it could be, hey, I just want to reach out and wish you, a great holiday season. I saw, you work at Coca-Cola, and I saw this great campaign. I, thought of you and just wanted to reach out. It could be also, you could see they got a new job on LinkedIn, send them a note to wish them congrats, or like or comment or, you know, on their LinkedIn post. Maybe they're going to post some content on LinkedIn that you can kind of help them share and get more visibility. You can even, and this is, you know, this was interesting, someone who I mentored, or I actually had a 30-minute conversation with, she actually offered to, like, you know, format, you know, if I needed any Canva help, she would be willing to help me because she appreciated that I spent time with her. And while I, you know, didn't take her up on it, and I never would, I thought it was a nice thing for her to do and to think of. And, you know, and I remembered her that much more. So, you know, you want to not only make these connections, but then continue to stay in touch, like in an organic way, not like following up every week, but when there's, you know, a reason to connect, you know, you want to make sure to kind of stay in touch. So overall, I guess some of my career lessons learned, I guess, is, you know, make sure you do what you love. Like, life's too short. If you're in a job that you hate, get out of it. And, you know, find a way. What I've found is if you like your boss, then chances are you'll love your job. It's really all about, and it's also all about the people that you work with. I stayed at Mindshare for so long, and the ANA as well, because I love the people that I work with. It's all about that. And, you know, you can do the work anywhere, but if you have people who really care about you and care about your growth, you know, you'll care about them too. And then you'll want to stay. And then, you know, it's all about relationships. You know, make sure, you know, you're nice to everybody. You never know who's going to be sitting next to you or who you're going to need something from, or, you know, it's just, you know, especially during COVID, I think it made us all kind of take a step back and realize that, you know, it's really important to be kind and empathetic, because, you know, everyone's going through something, and you just kind of want to be there for everybody. And then, you know, when you need something, then hopefully, you know, if you act that way, then someone will be there for you too. So that's it for the presentation. And then what I also would like to mention, oh, actually, before that, so let's connect. So definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I actually post and share a lot of jobs from my network, from entry level to, you know, CMOs. I tried, especially during COVID, and I'm still doing it, to kind of be that, now that I'm at the ANA and so connected, I'm trying to be that fire hose to share what I see with everyone in my network to try to help them get connected with jobs. Like I said earlier, you know, just make sure you're following the ANA Educational Foundation, not only on LinkedIn, but on Instagram as well. And then before we go to Q&A, also wanted to mention, so Amy and I are going to be offering coaching services, free coaching, for any students interested in career coaching. We're going to be offering 30-minute sessions every other week. So even if you're working with a mentor, this could be a really great opportunity to talk through a specific issue or some sort of work-related challenge or question that you might have, or even just anything else related to your career development. It's, you know, getting another sounding board and kind of expanding your network. So I know Amy and Sarah are going to share a sign-up form for anyone interested after the event. And I think that's it for me. So thanks for listening.
Miss Gordon.
Hi.
Miss Gordon, after you guys share the sign-up sheet, can I call you after this? I just sent you my number to talk one-on-one. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicholas. Yeah, so you could, yeah, we're gonna help funnel all the questions for Marni. So just shoot me over an email. So thank you.
To you, Amy. To you,
yeah,
Amy.
Yes, sorry. Nicholas, send it over to me, and we'll help get everything over to Marni. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. So first of all, just a round of applause. I think, Marni, that was excellent, and I learned stuff from you, so I'm sure that everybody did. And I just especially loved your suggestion for all of the students and interns to connect with each other, because even though we're all just looking at square faces, this is a network, and this is an opportunity to connect with each other. So anyway, with that, we've gotten a lot of questions.
Oh, good.
Throughout the presentation and in advance of the presentation. So we'll start there, and then we'll also feel free to unmute yourselves too if you have any questions. Okay, so we got a couple of related questions, so I'm going to just group these together. As a recent college graduate, it seems pretty difficult to find a job or internship. What advice can you give to those who are struggling to find a job fresh out of college?
That is a very good question. I would say it's all kind of back to the presentation in a sense. Like, it's all about networking and building your network. You know, try to schedule kind of as many of those like informational interviews with companies you might be interested in working for. You know, leverage any experience that you've had. Take a hard look at your LinkedIn profile and resume to make sure that it's all set and you're kind of like presenting your best self, if you will. But it, you know, really it's the hidden job market. I mean, you may, you know, because you're coming out of school, and I would say even to mid-level, you'd likely have more luck, more luck than someone more senior finding a job, let's say on LinkedIn, you know, posts or Indeed or so forth. But it really is even at all levels, it's all about the hidden job market. So when you're making connections with people, you know, they may hear of something first before it's posted and give you that heads up so you can get your resume to the top of the pile and get an interview. So yeah, so I mean, my advice, like if I were a Monday morning quarterback, I would have done the same thing and just tried to build as many connections as I can so that when I need to, you know, to kind of, you know, put the foot on the gas and you know, and look for a job, that this way I have people to kind of, you know, tap into. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, I think that was a great response, Marni. Thank you. And you know, we have a lot of other questions from the chat, but I want to give people live here an opportunity to unmute and ask if anybody would like to do so. Okay.
Do so
not,
with what? I'm sorry.
Just any questions. So if there are no live questions, I'm going to go to our next question in the chat. So this is a good one, Marni. So you talked about the importance of your LinkedIn headline and how you've, you know, changed that from your current position to reflect more the headlines that you might want people to find. So on that note, wait, I'm just looking for this exact question. Oh, what are some examples, or do you have any specific tips about how to incorporate keywords in your LinkedIn headline or profile in general?
That's a good question. I would say look at mine, you know, so you can kind of see what I did. There were certain, you know, I would also say take a hard look at some of the job descriptions for the positions that you're interested in and see which keywords keep appearing. And then kind of figure out a way to either organically integrate them in your headline, in your about section when you write about yourself, or sometimes in the about section, people will also literally at the bottom list keywords, because it's all about, you know, the resume software and what that picks up for the recruiters. So, and people just even doing LinkedIn searches in general, like from your profiles, it really works. I mean, it was funny when I happened to put, and I didn't even put them together, I changed my headline for keywords to like, of course, I don't have my LinkedIn in front of me, but it was like something like marketing, you know, senior marketing leader, career and leadership development. I put the word coach in there and some other things. And then all of a sudden people started to find me for, you know, marketing coach. And I didn't even put those two words together. So it was just, to me, it was like a real life, like, wow, that's pretty powerful, that someone, that you could be searchable that way. So you want to figure out, all right, what do I want? What kind of career, do I want to start? And you also have to remember, like, a career is not, it's a journey, it's not a destination. So just because you pick something to start doesn't mean you necessarily are going to end up there in the end. People are constantly changing, your priorities are going to change in life. I know, like, for myself, it was like I, started out of school and my priorities were, making friends and going out and so forth. And then I got married and, I wanted to go and spend time with my husband. And then I had a child, and then my whole life turned upside down. Now my child is leaving to go to college in the fall. So that'll be a big adjustment. So you're going to all go through that too, in one way, shape, or form, whatever that looks like for you. And, and your interests are going to change, and you're going to, things are going to mean something to you now, and they may not mean as much to you 10 years from now. So, so that said, it's like, you want to make sure that wherever it is that you want to start your career, I guess, after, when you graduate or through your internship process, that, you kind of marry those keywords as best as you can with how you're presenting yourself on LinkedIn and your resume.
Thanks, Marni. And I loved your suggestion about, getting hints from the job descriptions you're interested in. That's a great one. Really smart. We have time for one or two questions, and I'm going to go with this one. So you talked about different ways of networking. We talked a lot about LinkedIn, and we also talked a little bit about networking events. Is there one way that you think is most effective when it comes to networking overall?
What I've found most effective now, especially with COVID, is online networking. In person is great too, and there's nothing that'll substitute that. So if you can get yourself to an in-person event, but I found it to be pretty efficient, kind of reaching out to people from LinkedIn or through other connections, and, you don't have to travel to meet them and so forth. And, I've been able to build, like, especially throughout COVID, like a lot of really, really strong connections. I literally, met someone online like 2 years ago through coaching, and we've become really close friends. And now, like, we met in person last week for the first time. So it's sort of like, there's a lot of power behind, doing it online. But I guess to answer your question, I would try to do all of the above if you can. The more different ways you can network, the better. And definitely, like, your low-hanging fruit is that alumni directory. It's like, filled with gold for you.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. If I ever get a student, contacting me from my alma mater, I'm always really excited. But also, I am happy to talk to all of you too. But it's your.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
So what would be your advice about transitioning from undergrad to like grad school? Do you think that students should go to grad school straight out, or do you think they should work for a few years and then go to grad school? I just wanted to hear your perspective on that.
I love that question. I could talk about that for hours. So I think the answer is it depends, right, on what you want to do, even your first couple of years. It's interesting. So at Binghamton, I talked to a lot of students at my alma mater, and in order to take business classes, you have to be in the School of Management. So there are a lot of students in the Arts and Sciences School who want to go into business, but aren't able to take classes because they're not in School of Management. So a lot of them are taking like a 4+1, literally to be able to take business classes and to kind of get their MBA done sooner and figure it out all in one shot. Within marketing, and this is like my personal perspective, but don't take it for what it is, right? I think if you want to go into like CPG brand management, like working for a Procter and Gamble, or more of a traditional like packaged goods company, and maybe some other financial companies as well, then an MBA like right out of school could be more useful because they recruit for those positions from there. However, for most everything else, I would say go work for a little bit, see what it's like, see what you want to do, and then think about going back to school. And you never know, you may work for a company that might pay for part or all of it. You can do it, part-time at night. I'm not going to say it's easy. I know friends of mine have done it, and, but at least you have that perspective of what it's like to work. And then you can really make like more of a concrete decision if you even need an MBA. Like and it's funny, like I never got an MBA. My previous boss did get an MBA, and we're basically doing the same thing. Everyone gets, an MBA for different things. You may want to get an MBA because you just, you want to learn more. But at the end of the day, unless there are specific positions that are specifically looking for MBAs, it may be worth kind of working for a little bit, especially if you're working for an ad agency, a media company, even most marketers. It's really more of the traditional brands that kind of look for that MBA experience sometimes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for the question. Well, I think that's all we have time for today, but it's been really great speaking with all of you. And Marni, huge thank you to you for your time today and for such a helpful presentation. Sarah or I will email everyone, we'll share a recording, and we'll also share a link for those who would like to sign up for career coaching. So have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you at our other events. The next one is a week from today with some MAID alumni talking about their experiences in their first couple of years in the industry. So thank you again, everyone.